Hello friends, good morning, namaste, welcome to here, if I can remember the name of it correctly, Prakriti Mahabodhi Buddha Vihara, which is in Ketohili in the state of Karnataka, South India. And today is the full moon of September, which is, where are we? At the end of September, being also the 2/3 of the way through the Vassa, this 3 months rains retreat, this year, a month later than ordinarily. It runs from full moon of July to full moon of now, September, July, August, September. This year it began in August and runs through to the full moon of October, at the end of October. This is because it's based on the lunar calendar, as are all of our Buddhist holy days and festivals. This is one of those holy days, not a particular festival, but the full moon of September, an Uposatha day. The other Upositas are the new moon, and then the quarter moons, where we have half of the moon waning or waxing, growing or decreasing in size. It is, of course, always the same size. It's what we see, the reflection, the light from the sun. So, on this day, as usual, I will be going to the city, to our main branch, our head office, HQ, of this organisation, this well-established, long-established Sangha, community of Buddhist monks here in India. And this is where I get together with my brothers, my fellow bhikkhus, and we recite the Patimokkha, our 227 bhikkhu training rules. I say training rules because they are trainings. They're not really even rules, they are trainings that we use to keep us on track and on this path of morality, virtue. Sila, we call sila, moral virtue, which is our practice. Oh, so I'm distracted by the little bird's nest hanging, I'm sorry you can't see this, on the line there. The mother's just feeding the little baby chicks. It's hanging on a flag line of flags, and it's the first time I've seen the mother going in with its long beak feeding the chicks. It's a beautiful morning here. And yes, our practice is sila, moral virtue, samadhi, meditation, panya, wisdom. Make a slight adjustment here. I don't normally move around, but the practice is for us to become free from suffering in this lifetime through the development of wisdom. And we do this through our practice of meditation, not through intellectual learning, not through study necessarily. This helps train the mind, stretch the mind, exercise the mind. But what true wisdom is realization of the true characteristics of our existence, being anicca, impermanence, dukkha, that there is suffering. And these aspects are out of our control, so not self. This personality, this that we see as ourselves, is just as a result of causes and conditions. So what we are trying to do in this practice is create those causes and conditions that will make for a not a better self, but a better member of society, but more importantly, someone whom we can live with ourselves. We can be appreciative of our own goodness, like we can also recognize when we do wrong. Now, in Buddhism, we don't so much have sin, we don't so much have forgiveness, we don't so much have guilt. These are all rather negative connotations of mistakes we make, not necessarily intentionally. Where they are intentional, where we make errors of judgment, we may take shortcuts, we may do things in breach of our understanding of moral virtue, our sila, and later have cause for regret about such actions. So on this day, on Uposatha, the bhikkhus, we come together to confess, but not in the way of specifically confessing the nature of each and every sin, but any breaches of specific rules, yes, of course, need to be discussed, the major rules. But generally speaking, we come together and we ask each other we don't ask for forgiveness. We express our recognition of any breaches we have done through body, speech and mind, and really apologize for those, but make a determination to not trying to think of the word not to act only in wholesome ways of body, speech and mind in the future. So it's more of determination about how our behaviour will go in the future, rather than seeking forgiveness about what we have done in the past. Only recognition of what we may have done, mistakes we have made in the past, is enough. Because we cannot change what we have done in the future, we cannot go back, we cannot amend. So there's no absolution that we can specifically say in Buddhism, because there is no God to ask for this forgiveness, or a priest or someone empowered to give such, let's say, punishment for you there to be absolved of your sins. So it's quite different, but a little more open and a little more simple to understand when you look at it logically. We have these basic moral virtues in Buddhism that lay people have also, the 5 precepts, which are the fundamental basis of our morality, that there is no killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, or the taking of intoxicants. The fifth being not so much a specific morally wrong thing to do, because of course certain aspects of intoxicants and the taking of intoxicants is quite legal, quite acceptable, even encouraged and normal in some cultures. Despite that, it can lead to heedlessness, a lack of mindfulness, and the breach of the other four main precepts: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying. You can expand on each of those as much as you like, but the core precepts are just that. But you could take killing to no harm. You can take stealing to only accepting that which is offered to you directly into your hand. Sexual misconduct has a whole array of ideas, and lying can be expanded to harsh speech of any kind, divisive speech. Now, there are specific rules within our mass of 227 Bhikkhu training rules covering all aspects of our lives. We recite this repetitively every 15 days, every Uposatha, to remind ourselves of this training. It is this training that is not a set of rules to encumber us, not to hold us back, but to protect us, to guide us. It's our manual, our instruction book. If you like, if you remember the highway code when you were learning to drive, I'm not sure whether they have that in all countries, but it's our way of driving safely through life, like the highway code. So we don't think of it as restrictive. In fact, we think of it as liberating. It's liberation in itself. When I'm encountering a situation in real life, on Tudong, wandering, walking as a monk alone, without my brothers, in solitude, not necessarily in a Buddhist area, and I'm making a decision, the first point of reference I go to is the Noble Eightfold Path. So if I'm deciding, should I do this or should I do that? Should I go this way or should I go that way? Should I behave like this or should I behave like that? How should my reaction be in this present moment? I refer to the Noble Eightfold Path, which is right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right mindfulness, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. This answers most of those questions. But for the intricate details about life, how do you behave when somebody sits next to you too closely on the bus, or what do you do if someone gives you this and you're not sure where it came from and how it was given to you and whether it was given to you or not. Little things like this, even down to how we wear our robes, how we wash and clean our robes, what robes we are prepared to accept and be offered and use, what other requisites we make use of, keep, and then discard over a certain period of time. This is all very important to protecting our moral virtue. And this is the point of this regular coming together of bhikkhus. Now, when I go on Tudong next month, when I go away, I'll be alone. But I will find a monastery every 15 days, like I do when I'm here, and go and join those monks if I'm accepted to, which I will be, because they generally accept other monks on this day, to go and join them in this recitation of the Patimokkha. Because it doesn't matter that it's in another country with another language. This is done in the Pali language, the traditional language of Theravada Buddhism. So it is the same wherever I go. And this is a very valuable part of my practice and a way of upholding the foundations, the basis, the substance behind our practice of meditation, which is sila, this foundation of virtue. Because without that solid basis, we do not have meditation. So, we feel good because we have behaved virtuously. When we have done something a little bit iffy, let's say, not necessarily of great moral disaster, but some iffy thing, it's always something that just niggles us a little bit in the back of our mind. We may have spoken a little harshly to someone. We may have just told a little fib, or taken something that's not really supposed to be taken. And this will, even if it's very slight, bother us slightly. And this is what affects us developing purity of mind. Clear seeing, which is the translation, the literal translation of the word vipassana, seeing clearly, is inhibited, hindered by any concerns we have over our own morality. Now, we have two wonderful words, Pali words, which are also depicted in a kind of a image mythological form or idea. And those words are Hiri and Ottappa. Now Hiri, which is usually spelt H-I-R-I, but I think actually is just H-R-I in the Pali language, is often translated as how is it often translated? Wise shame. Now, the reason I have trouble recalling that is because shame is a rather negative word again. And Buddhism is all about happiness and joy and peace and love and positivity. So where we have a word like shame, it is not invocative of joy, it is not invocative of happiness, it's more invocative of regret. And what we're trying to do is avoid regret. So I prefer, really, the translation of conscientiousness, because this is prevention of the occurrence of shame, but it's also a positive attribute we all have. Now, as Buddhists, we don't believe in the concept as being born sinners, which is very much a Christian or Abrahamic point of view. The born with sin, sins of the father, sins of even past lives, isn't a concept in Buddhism. We bring with us karma, the results of our actions, new causes and conditions, which are our rebirth into samsara, into this human world or other realm. But we're not paying for sins, we're just seeing the literal results of actions. So if, for instance, we steal something, we accept that it is possibly our karmic result, vipaka, the Pali word for the results of karma, that we will be caught and be punished for it in some way. This is as simple as karma is. It isn't a long life punishment, eternal hell. It isn't damnation from a God above. It is literally experiencing the results of our actions. So poor actions of body, speech and mind result in unfortunate conditions as a result of those causes in the future, whereas good actions of body, speech and mind, like kindness and generosity, result in only good conditions in the future as a result of those former causes. So we have this natural, as being born into this world, as babies, of being pure. We have this view in Buddhism. We're not born sinners, we're born pure. We're born with clean, ready to begin new lives, minds of purity, with sila, moral virtue, and no intention of altering that other than what comes along through our nurturing, our growth, our learning, our behavioural patterns and our immersion in society and what causes and conditions surround us, which develop this idea of self and perception. And that can either be affected, it can either be created out of good or bad surroundings and environment. but we still retain this purity that we are born with throughout our lives, which we tend to call, or is usually called, a conscience. We're all born and all have, whatever our behaviour through lives, a conscience. That is, we somehow know when we've done something that isn't good. We know when we've done wrong. We may feel it's okay, we get away with it and continue to repeat this said offence. But it's known. Our citta, this mind, this knower, this overall point of understanding that is all we really are, as opposed to these 5 khandhas of just this rupa, this body and this thinking mind. This knower has this inbuilt conscience. Now this, you can say, is just a natural human instinct, or you can say it's something that has come forward through rebirth into this life by way of karma, by way of vipaka, the results of karma. So, with this in mind, hiri, meaning consciousness, is something that protects us. It protects us from ourselves, because we have this built-in conscientiousness which ensures we don't want to do wrong. We may feel we're in a situation where we have no choice, but the underlying feeling is there that we shouldn't be doing this. So often outside of, very often outside of Thai Buddhist temples, you will have 2 images. On the left-hand side of the door, it's either a painting or a statue of a sort of a monk-looking angel-y figure. Could be any kind of depiction, really, because this is just an image. It's not a real, tangible thing. To actually depict this idea of hiri as a guard or a guardian angel, we say in the West. And on the right-hand side of the door is Hiri's partner. And Hiri's partner is called Ottappa, O-T-T-A-P-A. And Ottappa means the fear of consequences. Not all consequences, the fear of consequences of immoral behaviour or breach of sila, of misbehaving, of non-virtuous activities. The fear that the results of poor actions, so karma, bad karma, what vipaka, what results will come of that. Because we've got this inbuilt sense also, as well as conscious, as well as conscience, we have this conscientiousness not to break sila, conscientiousness to keep moral virtue, which helps to prevent us doing that. But we also have this fear, not of being found out but being caught, but this fear of the results of those bad actions. Now, the readily understandable results of those actions can be very clearly seen when we sit to meditate. Because even if we're never caught, never found out about something we have done that is wrong, we know. Now, our greatest judges are not those in the courts of the land or the high courts, not up in the heavens or the hell realms. They're not even within my Bhikkhu Sangha when we go to the Sima, this specially designated, very official place for this recitation of the Patimokkha and our confession and our asking of forgiveness and all of this. It's not in the confessional in the Catholic Church. These are all there, figuratively speaking, as representations of what is truly our only and most important judge. And that is the one who knows absolutely everything we do. Because whatever it is, if you're looking over your shoulder, oh, look, no one's looking right now, I'll do this. You are there, you are witnessing, you are seeing. So you are not only the witness, you are the judge, you are the jury of all of your actions. And you are also the beneficiary of those actions, heir to that karma. This karma will come to fruition by way of vipaka, and it will get you in the end. But it doesn't have to be at the end. You know right now, if you sit in meditation, that you're not going to have clear mind, purity of mind, this settling peace that you have when you have upheld sila, kept moral virtue, to the best of your intentions. All of this is intention-based. We can make mistakes unintentionally. This isn't necessarily bad karma. It can be neutral. But when we intentionally breach any of those 5 precepts, then we are creating cause for concern in ourselves, something to judge, something to decide upon, well, I got away with it or I didn't, but also something to know that it may affect you in the future and therefore have concerns for it now in the present. And this can be seen when we try to meditate, which is why it's so important to have that moral foundations. Now, Ottappa is this fear of those consequences, the results, vipaka, the results of karma. So the two conjointly work so well together. We have conscientiousness keeping us on this moral path of virtue, on one hand, standing on one side of the door of the temple. And on the other hand, standing on the other side of the door of the temple, we have my mind's gone blank. The fear of consequences. Conscientiousness, consequences, and conscience. Very similar words. So I'm having to be very mindful as to not mixing them up here. And also I have this problem with the door, having a life of its own today. It's the wind, of course. Is there a little... Actually, I don't think they have those. We have these little wedge things where I come from these days, made of rubber or something, which are marvellous for... Someone could invent those here. Anyway, outside of the temple, this depiction is there for that reason, reminding us of Hiri, conscientiousness, which I think is a nicer idea than shame or fear of shame. Wise shame. Wise, using wise in front of shame is to try and make shame sound more positive. But conscientiousness is something we all understand and know we have. That we are conscientious generally, trying to be good. And we're born with that quality. We're not born sinners. We may be born into conditions that are the results of our actions in previous lives, if you believe in previous lives, or understand, I should say not believe, there's nothing to believe. When you understand the principle of rebirth, so can understand about previous lives, then you'll know your birth in this life is as a result of those causes and conditions you put in place previously. However, without that even, you know at birth you have a clean slate. You're a little baby. What can you do wrong? Only through growing up and society are you going to go in one direction or another. Or sometimes both, a little bit split. We both have a devil and an angel on our shoulders. This is something that's often depicted in the West. But Hiri and Ottappa isn't that. Hiri and Ottappa are outside of the temple there to remind us of conscientiousness there on the left, and of the fear of those consequences on the right, or the knowing of consequences on the right. It doesn't even need to be fear. Just knowing there are consequences is wisdom, panya. And our practice, after all, is sila, moral virtue, samadhi, meditation, panya, wisdom. So this is a wonderful depiction, illustration. It's imagery that helps us remember what it is that naturally makes us keep sila, moral virtue. Now, we all make mistakes, we all transgress. In monastic life as monks, it is called offences. So there are offences, they are determined harshly like that, known as offences, because they are in breach of our monastic code. But as lay people, you are not committing any kind of real offence, for instance, other than to the other person if you tell a fib, a white lie you might call it, or if you have one glass of wine, or if you take a paperclip from work, or if you swat a mosquito. Well, that's about the worst thing, really. That is killing very intentionally. But you may react and do that. This isn't the end of the world. It isn't an offence. But for a monk, that is an absolute offence, and it's a punishable offence. And some of the offences are disrobable. One would have to take your robes off and reordain, or some even prevent that, further ordination ever again in this lifetime. So it is very important, but that is from a monk's or a nun's life environment. But for a layperson's environment, equally important is having this sound foundation of moral virtue. So Hiri and Ottappa are there to help with this. It isn't anything mythological, it isn't anything to be believed in, nothing ethereal, magical, or hard to understand. It is very simply knowing Hiri is our conscientiousness, and Ottappa is our fear of, our understanding, knowing of consequences. Conscientiousness and consequences. It's quite simple, isn't it? Hiri and Ottappa. The words sound nice, Hiri and Ottappa, and can ring in your mind somewhere throughout your activities. Hiri and Ottappa, Hiri and Ottappa, Hiri and Ottappa, like a mantra keeping you on the path to virtue. And if you can do that, when you sit to meditate, you will meditate with a purity of mind that you may not have experienced before, through simply that recognition that you are already sin-free. You are already forgiven. You are pure. You don't have to do certain actions to become absolved of sins. You don't have to directly now pay for the mistakes you've made in the past, because whatever you do now will have no effect on what will be the results that you will inherit by way of vipaka, by way of results of karma anyway. But good actions will dilute bad actions. So the more good we do, the more we do in way of kindness, generosity, they call dana, or have faithful devotional practice, keep truthfulness, keep energetic practice in our meditation, our understanding, our development of wholesome mind states, our reduction of unwholesome mind states, our training in terms of giving up what we don't need and just using and having what we need. This is renunciation. All of these aspects, these qualities of our lives that we develop throughout this life and previous lives continue to grow in our personal development, which also produce continually better and better vipaka, results of karmic action, which outweigh by far the maybe negative vipaka, negative results of karmic action by way of dilution. So this is how we should view our mistakes, not as something to be now punished for, paid for, but to be recognized, and we make a determination not to make that mistake again, an adhitthana, another quality of our lives to be developed, adhitthana, which is determination. When we have this resolve, this determination not to make that mistake again, because we've seen the consequences of that mistake, we need have no fear of consequences, because we have that realization that I mentioned right at the beginning, as opposed to trying to intellectually understand what's good, what's right, what's wrong from a legal point of view. We're born with this natural, inbuilt conscientiousness. What is good, what is bad. Even as a little child, maybe with a magnifying glass, burning ants or doing something quite nasty like this, or pulling frogs' eyes out, whatever horrible thing you might have done as a child, you knew it wasn't a good thing to do. You knew it was a cruel thing to do, but you may have thought at the time, through innocence, and I use the word innocence very strongly, not in a light way, because we are innocent as children, thought that, well, it's okay because I won't be punished for it. But as we go through life, we learn there are consequences. So this is why you don't just have conscientiousness. You don't just have this black and white, good and bad. You are a sinner or you're not. Or born with sin, or everybody is sinners until they die and go to heaven. No, you have this, these conjoined ideas of conscientiousness and consequences, because it's through consequences that we have the realization of what our conscientiousness is based on, which is our natural purity. So this is, it's actually what I wanted to talk about today, Hiri and Ottappa, because someone suggested that I should. I think I normally talk on New Apostle today about Sila, without perhaps mentioning directly Hiri and Ottappa as specific things, but they are in Theravada Buddhism very important and very much upheld as aspects of our lives, which is why they are depicted so vividly outside of Thai Buddhist temples as images of these figurines, these effigies, these deities, angels, whatever you'd like to call them. But they are really just words, and they are of those meanings, conscientiousness and consequences, or knowing of consequences. If we keep this in mind, it helps us. I say us because for myself, I benefit from having 227 specific rules which help me keep the main precepts. But even without remembering all of those specifically, I still have my built-in conscientiousness. And when one has developed through meditation this knowledge that if you do something a little wrong, if you make mistakes intentionally, you don't get away with it, because you are your own judge, you are your own jury, you are the prime witness. When you know this and you see this clearly in meditation, you develop this knowing of consequences, Ottappa. So Hiri and Ottappa are our greatest friends and supports on the path towards Nibbana. I hope that's useful on this September Uposatha Day. I wish you have a wonderful Uposatha Day. If it's the morning where you are, that you can make a determination to maybe keep 8 precepts, but it is still a working week for most people. You could make a determination to do that over this weekend, on Saturday or Sunday, which will give you so much more time and freedom, without entertainment, without having to beautify yourself and dress up, just to be clean, wake up, practice meditation, have one simple meal, don't bother eating in the afternoon and in the evening, but just practice meditation, reflecting on the good you have done for the last 15 days since the last Uposatha, or the last one pra, which is the quarter Uposatha, the half moon, depending on how often you do this, but even just over your past days, weeks, months, years, whatever time scale, reflect upon the good you have done, not the mistakes you have made. And knowing this, putting this foremost in your mind, the good you have done, the kindness, we've all done something good, even if we've behaved badly in other respects. Even if you have to go right back to childhood, there's something kind you've done. Reflect on this for your Uposatha Day, and it will build foundations for future good behaviour, especially knowing Hiri and Ottappa are there, figuratively speaking, to protect you and keep you on that path. So I shall leave it there. I think that's about the right time to, what do you say, wrap this up, end this talk, and hope there's something useful there for you to use. If not, please just let it go. Don't let it trouble you. And do share, if you can, share these talks, these videos, and your own ideas with other people. You're only giving by doing that, and giving is also morally virtuous behaviour, good karma. Thank you.